The Queen's return. The night sky above Earth was calm, filled with the silent beauty of distant stars. People were asleep, ships drifted in orbit, and peace seemed normal. But peace never lasted long in the galaxy, and Earth was about to face something that no one had ever expected. At exactly 0237 Earth Standard Time, space itself tore open above the planet. A massive alien flagship appeared, its surface glowing with strange blue lines, its shadow covering entire cities below. Sirens howled across military bases. Civilian news drones rushed to broadcast. The people of Earth looked up in fear. For decades they had feared the return of alien fleets, and now one had come. The ship did not fire weapons. It did not send fighters. Instead, it floated like a silent predator above the atmosphere, holding its position. The strange energy waves around it interfered with satellites, jamming Earth's defenses. Commanders shouted orders across comm channels, preparing anti-orbital weapons. But before Earth could fire, a single voice echoed across every broadcast channel, every frequency, every device on the planet. It was calm, yet powerful, carrying the weight of 1,000 worlds. The words were simple, and they froze billions of people in their tracks. I seek the human who saved me long ago. Shock raced through governments, militaries, and civilians alike. Who was she talking about? Why would an alien fleet cross half the galaxy just to ask for one human? Some thought it was a trap, an excuse for invasion. Others whispered about legends, stories from the old war when Earth had fought against countless alien species to defend itself. But no record existed of a single soldier saving an alien queen. Still, the words were clear. The human who saved me. No threats, no demands. Only that strange message repeated again and again. On the streets of New Berlin, people gathered around public screens, staring in silence. In orbital command stations, generals exchanged uneasy glances. In the Galactic Council, far away across, the stars' alien ambassadors snarled in anger. The Queen had broken their silence. The galaxy had sworn to keep humanity at the edge, treated as weak, treated as dangerous. Yet now, one of the most powerful rulers had chosen to speak Earth's name again, and worse. She had spoken it with gratitude. Inside Earth's Defense Command, the highest-ranking officers gathered in the war room. A hologram of the alien flagship floated above the table, larger than any warship humanity had ever seen. It's her, whispered Admiral Rane, his voice dry. The Queen of Thalvana, the one who ended the Crimson War. Murmurs spread through the room. The Queen was a legend, known for her ruthless battles, her cunning diplomacy, and her unmatched fleet. But why would such a leader travel here? Why ask for a human? The alien message played again across the speakers. Do you remember me, human? Years ago in the war you saved my life, that was me. Gasps filled the command chamber. Soldiers looked at one another in disbelief. Could it be true? Somewhere on Earth, an ordinary human had once saved the life of the alien queen, and now, after years of silence, she had come to repay that moment? Some officers wanted to treat it as a threat, to fire every weapon Earth had. But others hesitated. What if this was not war, but something far greater? What if mercy, once shown in battle, had changed the course of history? In a quiet town far from the chaos, a man named Elias Ford sat alone in his workshop. His hands were stained with grease, his hair gray from years of age, his eyes tired from battles long buried in memory. He had lived quietly, repairing machines, avoiding questions about his past. But as the alien voice echoed through the radio on his desk, he froze. His hands shook. He knew that voice. He remembered the battlefield, the smoke, the blood, and the young alien commander who had been left for dead. He remembered lowering his rifle, defying orders, and dragging her to safety. He had never told anyone, but she remembered. After all, these years she still remembered. Back in orbit, the Queen's ship began to descend, slowly drifting closer to Earth's skies. People screamed, some prayed, others prepared for the end. But the Queen's message never changed. No weapons fired, no ultimatums were made. Only the same haunting call. I seek the human who saved me long ago. And somewhere deep inside, Elias Ford knew his life of hiding was about to end. The past had returned, and the galaxy was watching. The Queen had come, and Earth would never be the same. The forgotten battle, the battlefield had smelled of fire and blood. It was the 23rd year of the Crimson War, and Earth was still fighting for survival. The alien fleets had been stronger, faster, and far more advanced. Human soldiers had learned the hard way that courage alone could not stop plasma cannons and war cruisers, yet they never surrendered. Every inch of soil, every corner of space was defended with desperation. It was in one of those battles in the ruins of a broken colony that Elias Ford had faced a choice no soldier was ever meant to make. He had been young then, just 24, wearing a scorched combat suit and carrying a rifle that hummed with dying energy cells. His squad had been destroyed hours earlier. The colony of Vela burned around him, smoke rising from craters. Buildings cracked open like broken bones. Alien forces hunted the survivors, and Elias had crawled through shattered metal and burning rubble, searching for a way to live one more hour. That was when he found her. She lay among the ruins of a collapsed wall, her armor broken, her body bleeding with glowing alien blood. At first, Elias thought she was just another enemy soldier. He raised his rifle, finger tight on the trigger. But then her eyes opened, strange violet eyes that glowed in the darkness. She didn't reach for a weapon. She didn't raise her claws. Instead, she whispered something weak and trembling in her own language. It was not a threat. It was a plea. Elias hesitated. He knew what his orders demanded. Kill the enemy. Leave no survivors. That was how humanity had survived this long. Yet looking into those eyes, he saw something unexpected. Fear. Pain. The same kind of pain his own people carried. She was young, younger than he expected, and her armor carried markings of rank. She wasn't just a soldier. She was someone important. His heart pounded. If he spared her and if anyone found out, he would be branded a traitor. But if he killed her, he would never forget those eyes. The air shook with the sound of approaching enemy patrols. Elias had seconds to decide. He could kill her, leave her body behind and vanish into the smoke. Or he could risk everything. He dropped his rifle to the ground, pulled her broken frame onto his shoulders, and staggered into the ruins. Blood stained his armor, burning his skin like acid. He carried her anyway. For hours he dragged her through fire and ash. Patrols searched nearby, their voices echoing in guttural tones. Twice he nearly collapsed. Once he almost left her behind, but something inside refused. Something told him that mercy had a place even in war. By the time he reached a hidden shelter in the ruins, both of them were barely alive. He gave her water from his own flask, patched her wounds with human bandages, and prayed the painkillers would work on her alien body. She never spoke more than a few broken words, but her eyes never left his, eyes that seemed to burn the memory of his face into her soul. The battle raged on for 3 more days. Elias stayed hidden with her, feeding her when he could, guarding the shelter while she healed. Once she tried to stand, lifting a broken blade in shaky hands as if ready to fight him for her freedom. But Elias only pushed the blade away and whispered, "Rest. I won't harm you." For the first time in her life, perhaps, she believed a human's words. When the fighting finally moved away and the skies cleared of smoke, Elias carried her to the edge of the ruins. A rescue shuttle from her species waited in the distance. He left her there, weak but alive, and without another word, he vanished back into the wreckage of war. No one saw him. No one knew. And he never told a soul. To everyone else, it was just another battle among thousands. To Elias, it was the secret that would haunt him forever. That alien woman, broken and near death, was not just a commander. She was heir to the throne of Thalvana. Soon after, she would rise to power, ending the war with a bloody treaty, becoming a queen feared across the stars. But Elias never knew. To him, She was just one life saved in a galaxy of death. Now, years later, as her voice called across Earth's skies, he realized she had never forgotten. While he had hidden in silence, she had carried his memory into her empire, through battles, through diplomacy, through every choice she made as queen. The galaxy thought she had won because of power, but in truth she had carried a human's mercy in her heart, and now she had returned to repay it. The human revealed Elias Ford had lived many years trying to bury the past. His small workshop sat at the edge of a quiet town, filled with broken engines, rusted tools, and the smell of oil. Neighbors only knew him as the old mechanic, a man who kept to himself and fixed machines no one else could repair. Children whispered that he had once been a soldier, but no one dared to ask him. To Elias, that suited him fine. The less people knew, the better. But now the past had found him, when the alien queen's voice echoed across Earth. "Do you remember me, human? Years ago in the war, you saved my life. That was me." Elias had felt the world collapse around him. He knew without doubt she spoke of him. The memory of her eyes, her blood, the night he carried her from the ruins. It all came rushing back. He had hidden it for decades, but the queen had remembered, and she had told the entire galaxy that next morning soldiers came for him. Armored transports rolled into the dusty town, frightening the locals. Neighbors peeked from windows as Earth defense troopers surrounded the workshop. Elias stood at the doorway, wiping grease from his hands, pretending to be calm. But inside, his heart thundered. A young officer stepped forward, visor lifted. "Elias Ford?" Elias said nothing. The officer glanced at a data pad. "By order of the Earth Council, you are required for questioning. The alien queen has demanded your presence." The words felt like iron chains. Elias wanted to run, to hide, but he knew it was pointless. The galaxy had already found him. With a slow nod, he allowed himself to be escorted into the transport. The workshop, his quiet life, all of it disappeared behind him in the dust. High above Earth, in orbit, governments debated in secret chambers. Many feared that the Queen's arrival was a trap. "We should not give her what she wants," some generals argued. "She brings a fleet, she jams our satellites, and then she demands a single man. It makes no sense." Others, however, understood the danger of refusal. To insult the Queen was to risk her wrath, and the wrath of her empire. Still, no one could understand why Elias. He was no hero, no famous soldier, no name in any history books. He was just another face among millions who had fought in the war. Yet the Queen remembered only him, and she had crossed the stars to see him again. Inside the military transport, Elias sat in silence. Across from him, two young soldiers stared with barely hidden curiosity. They had watched the broadcast too. They wanted to ask him questions, but they held back, nervous of the old man who sat like stone. Only one of them finally spoke. "Sir, was it really you? Did you save her?" Elias looked at him, eyes heavy with years. He didn't answer, directly. He only whispered, "I did what I thought was right." Then he turned his gaze to the window, watching the world blur by. Hours later, he found himself aboard an orbital station, surrounded by officials, cameras, and guards. They pushed him into a chamber filled with holograms of Earth's leaders. All demanded answers. The president leaned forward in her chair. "Elias Ford, the alien queen insists you once saved her. Is this true?" Elias clenched his fists. He wanted to deny it, to bury the memory once more. But the Queen's words still echoed across the planet, impossible to silence. Finally, he nodded. "Yes, long ago, in the war. She was dying. I carried her out. I let her live." The chamber filled with shocked murmurs. Some cursed under their breath. Others stared at him with disbelief. One general slammed his fist against the table. "You mean to say, our enemies, Queen lives because of you?" Elias said nothing more. He simply stared at the floor, shame and confusion twisting inside him. He had never sought glory, never wanted recognition. He had acted out of instinct, out of something human, and now, decades later, that single act had dragged him back into the center of the galaxy's stage. Far above, the alien flagship descended closer to Earth, glowing like a star of judgment. The Queen's voice returned, filling the air once again. "Do not hide him. Do not fear. Bring him to me. His mercy bound my life. I will honor that bond before all the stars." The galaxy trembled. On alien worlds, rulers growled with anger. On Earth, fear and awe spread through the people, and in the quiet of the chamber, Elias Ford closed his eyes. He knew what came next. The Queen wanted him, and there would be no escape. Tension across the stars. The galaxy did not remain silent. The moment the alien Queen's words spread, "Bring me the human who saved me," shockwaves tore through every star system. Across hundreds of worlds, governments and councils met in panic. The Queen of Thalvana was feared and respected as one of the strongest rulers in the known universe. Her fleets had crushed empires, her diplomacy had ended wars, and her shadow had stretched farther than anyone dared resist. And now, she was declaring loyalty to a single human. On the capital world of the Galactic Council, ambassadors gathered, in the Great Hall. Their voices rose in anger, echoing off the crystal walls. The Ver representatives hissed, their long necks swaying. "This is an insult. Humanity is nothing but a backward species. They are dangerous and unworthy." Others shouted in agreement. The Drakari slammed their scaled fists against the table, demanding punishment. If the Queen joins with Earth, the balance of power is broken. But not all were so certain. Some whispered that if the Queen truly remembered mercy from the war, then perhaps humanity was not as weak as the Council had believed. Yet fear was greater than reason. In their hearts, most of the galaxy did not want a strong humanity. They wanted Earth contained, forgotten, kept in the shadows. On Earth, the pressure was just as heavy. Military leaders argued late into the night. Some demanded Elias Ford be hidden, locked away, never shown to the Queen. Others warned that refusing her demand could mean war with the entire Thalvana fleet. The president stood in silence as her advisors shouted over one another. "If we give her Elias," one general barked, "we lose control. She could use him as a tool." Another voice countered, "If we deny her, she will destroy us all. Which risk do you prefer?" In the end, no decision felt safe. The Queen held the power and Earth had no choice but to obey. Meanwhile, Elias sat in a secure chamber, far from windows, under the watch of guards. He felt like a prisoner even though no chains bound him. The walls vibrated faintly with the hum of the orbital station. He kept his eyes on the floor, listening as officials whispered outside the door. Everyone seemed to argue about his life, as if he was no longer a man, but a weapon, a symbol, a problem to be solved. Deep inside, Elias felt only dread. He had never wanted this. He had saved one life in a moment of war, not knowing who she truly was. That act, buried for decades, had come back to drag him into the light, and now the galaxy was on fire because of it. A guard finally entered the chamber. "You should prepare yourself," the soldier said quietly, almost with pity. "The council is furious, but the Queen, she won't leave without you." Elias gave a bitter smile. "So I have no choice?" The soldier shook his head. "None, at all." Far away, aboard her massive flagship, the Queen stood at the center of her throne chamber. Her violet eyes burned with resolve. Around her, alien advisors begged her to reconsider. "My Queen," one growled, bowing low. "To honor a human is to shame your throne. They will call you weak." But the Queen only raised her hand, silencing them. "He saved me when none of you could. When my blood spilled in the dust, it was his hands that lifted me. He saw me not as an enemy, but as life worth saving. Tell me, does that sound like weakness?" The chamber fell silent. None dared to answer. Back on the council world, rage only grew. Secret messages raced across the stars, whispers of plots, forming in shadows. Some spoke of assassins, some of hidden fleets. All feared the same thing. If the Queen and Earth became allies, then humanity would rise too high, too fast. One ambassador spat in fury. If she gives Earth her protection, we will not stand by. We will burn their planet before they gain power. Others nodded grimly. The decision was made in darkness. If the Queen would not abandon humanity, then humanity itself would have to be destroyed. On Earth, Elias was moved once more, escorted through a maze of soldiers and officials, toward the waiting transport that would take him to the Queen's ship. As he walked, he felt the weight of 1,000 eyes on him. To the people of Earth, he was no longer invisible. He was the man who had spared the Queen. Some cheered him. Others cursed his name, blaming him for the danger now hanging above their world. He kept walking, shoulders heavy, heart filled with questions. He did not know what the Queen truly wanted. Gratitude? Alliance? Or something far more dangerous? All he knew was this. The galaxy was holding its breath, waiting for their meeting, and whatever happened next would change everything. The Oath remembered. The transport docked with the alien flagship like a small bird landing on the back of a giant beast. Elias Ford stepped out slowly, his boots echoing on the polished black floor of the docking bay. Alien soldiers lined the path, tall figures in silver armor, their weapons held but not raised. Their glowing eyes followed his every step. He felt their hatred, their confusion. To them, he was just a fragile human, unworthy of standing in their Queen's presence. Yet none dared stop him. The air inside the ship felt heavy, filled with a strange energy that hummed against his skin. The walls glowed faintly with flowing blue veins, alive like the inside of some great creature. Guards led him down long corridors until at last they reached a vast chamber. Doors slid open, and the throne room of the Queen revealed itself. She sat upon a raised seat carved from dark crystal, her form tall and regal. Her armor was black and gold, her crown pulsed with faint light, and her violet eyes burned like twin stars. Around her stood alien advisors, generals, and attendants, all glaring with suspicion. But when she saw Elias, her gaze softened. She rose from her throne and descended the steps, her cloak trailing behind her like a river of shadow. For a moment, the chamber was silent. Every soldier watched. Every advisor held their breath. The Queen stopped just a step away from Elias. She looked down at him, not with anger, not with scorn, but with something far older, far deeper. "You remember," she said, her voice soft but clear. Elias's throat was dry, his heart pounded like a drum. "Yes," he whispered. "I remember." Her eyes closed for a moment and she exhaled. Then with sudden strength she turned to face her entire court. Her voice rang out, filling the chamber. "This is the human who spared my life in the war. When the fires burned, when blood drowned the soil, when all others sought death, he gave me mercy. Without him, your Queen would not stand here today. Without him, Thalvana would have no throne, no empire, no future. I owe my life to his hand. And today, before the galaxy, I will repay it." Gasps spread through the chamber. Advisors hissed. Some stepped forward in protest, but the Queen raised her hand, silencing them. "You call humanity weak, savage, unworthy. Yet in my darkest hour, when even my own soldiers abandoned me, it was a human who carried me from death. I swore then that I would not forget. I swore that one day I would honor that bond, and so I do here and now." She turned back to Elias, her violet eyes shining. "You saved me, and I will never let your people stand alone. From this day, Thalvana will protect Earth as I was once protected. Humanity is not our enemy. Humanity is under my shield." The words fell like thunder. The galaxy trembled. Across the stars, live broadcasts carried her speech. Billions watched in shock. On council worlds, riots broke out as leaders screamed betrayal. Fleets scrambled in secret, preparing for war. But on Earth, people stared at their screens with awe. For the first time in history, a power greater than any empire had sworn to stand with them. In the chamber, Elias stood frozen. He had not expected this. He had thought she might thank him, perhaps speak of old memories, but this was an oath that bound worlds together. He looked at her, struggling to find words. Why do this? For me? The Queen's expression softened. Because mercy has power greater than any weapon. You taught me that, human, and I will not let the galaxy forget it. Her generals shifted uneasily. Some whispered. Others clenched their fists. One finally dared to step forward. My queen, this is madness. To bind our empire to Earth is to invite war from the Council. They will never allow this. The Queen's gaze snapped to him, sharp as a blade. Let them come. I do not fear their anger. For I have seen what they cannot. I have seen humanity's fire, and I will stand with it. Elias lowered his head, torn between shame and pride. He had only acted on instinct that day, saving a life because he could not bear to kill. And yet that small act, buried in the dust of war, had grown into something vast, something that shook the galaxy itself. He looked up at the Queen, and for the first time since this all began, he allowed himself to breathe. Perhaps mercy had not been a mistake. Perhaps it had been the only thing that truly mattered. But even as he stood in her shadow, even as her oath echoed across the stars, a chill ran down his spine. For somewhere out there, in the dark corners of the galaxy, he knew enemies were already moving. They would not let this alliance stand unchallenged, and the real storm had yet to begin. Enemies in the shadows. The Queen's vow shook the galaxy like thunder, but not everyone welcomed her words. In the deep corners of space where secret fleets waited and silent killers made their living, her oath was taken as an insult. The Galactic Council's leaders met in secret, their faces twisted with anger. They had mocked humanity for centuries, keeping Earth weak and isolated. Now, in a single moment, the Queen had changed everything. She had dared to stand beside humans, dared to shield them under her empire's power. One ambassador slammed his clawed hand on the table. This cannot stand. If humanity is lifted up, if they gain her protection, then soon they will rise above us all. Another hissed. The Queen has betrayed the Council. She has chosen mercy over fear, and mercy spreads like fire. Their voices grew louder, each word burning with hatred. Finally, a decision was made. If the Queen would not break her bond with humanity, then she and the human who caused it would be destroyed. That night aboard the alien flagship, Elias Ford could not sleep. The chambers they gave him were grand, filled with alien silk and glowing walls, but he felt no peace. His mind turned over and over with memories, the war, the moment he chose mercy, the life he had tried to hide, and now, the Queen, standing before her people, declaring Earth under her shield. It was more than he had ever asked for, more than he could carry. He rose and looked out the wide window of the chamber. Stars glimmered against the endless dark. Somewhere out there, he knew, enemies were already plotting. His instincts, sharpened from years as a soldier, told him danger was close, and he was right. The assassins came silently. Small ships, painted black, slipped through the dark void. They carried no banners, no signals, no trace of origin. They were ghosts, trained killers from the Council's shadow divisions. Their mission was simple: kill the Queen, kill the human, and erase the bond between them before it could reshape the galaxy. Inside the flagship, alarms suddenly wailed. The corridors lit up in red, and guards rushed to their stations. Explosions rocked the lower decks. Elias grabbed the edge of the bed, steadying himself as the room shook. A soldier burst through his door, eyes wide. "Stay with me, human." Elias followed, heart pounding. His body was older, slower, but the instincts of war had never left him. He could feel the danger closing in like a storm. As they ran, the walls trembled with the clash of weapons. Strange, high-pitched sounds filled the air as energy blades clashed with shields. Shadows moved through the corridors, fast, deadly, merciless. In the throne chamber, the Queen stood tall, her violet eyes burning. Her guards fought fiercely, but the assassins were skilled. They darted like shadows, cutting down anyone in their path. One leapt directly at her, blade raised high. But before the strike could land, Elias burst into the chamber with the soldier who had guided him. Without thinking, Elias grabbed a fallen guard's weapon. It was heavy, alien, but his hands moved as if the war had never ended. He blocked the assassin's strike with a crack of energy, the force shoving him back. The queen's eyes widened as she saw him, an old man, a forgotten soldier, fighting once more. "You shouldn't be here," she said, her voice sharp yet almost soft beneath the chaos. Elias gritted his teeth. "Neither should you." They fought side by side, human and queen, back to back against the shadows. The assassins were swift, but Elias was relentless. His body burned with age, but his spirit did not break. He fought not for glory, not for power, but because mercy once shown could not be abandoned now. At last, the assassins were driven back. Some fell, others fled, vanishing into the dark. The chamber was left in ruins, bodies scattered, walls scorched. The queen stood with her cloak torn, her crown cracked but her gaze steady. Elias leaned heavily on the weapon, breathing hard, his chest heaving. "You risked your life again," she said quietly, looking at him. Elias gave a tired laugh. "Old habits." But in her eyes, there was no mockery, only respect. Perhaps even something deeper. Word of the attack spread quickly across the galaxy. The council denied involvement, but their lies fooled no one. Everyone now understood. The Queen's oath to humanity had painted a target on her back and on Earth as well. The galaxy was no longer divided by power, but by fear of what one human's choice of mercy could mean. In the shadows of space, more enemies gathered, waiting for their chance. The bond between the Queen and Elias had survived one attempt, but the storm was far from over. And Elias knew deep inside that the next strike would not be so small. A bond across empires, the attack had failed, but the message was clear. The galaxy would not accept the Queen's vow so easily. Her ship still carried scars of battle, and her throne chamber smelled of smoke and blood. Yet the Queen stood tall, her violet eyes unbroken, her crown repaired but shining once more, and beside her, to the shock of her people, stood Elias Ford, a human mechanic, an old soldier who had once been forgotten by history. In the days after the attack, the Queen summoned leaders, diplomats, and commanders from across her empire. The great hall of her flagship filled with voices from 100 worlds, all demanding answers. Why protect a human? Why risk war for Earth? Why honor one man's mercy when power alone had kept her throne? The Queen rose, silencing them with a single gesture. Her cloak swept the floor as she spoke. "You see weakness," she said, her voice calm but fierce. "But weakness is not what saved me. Power abandoned me. Fear left me to die. Hatred would have ended my life. It was mercy, His mercy, that gave me breath again. That is not weakness. That is strength you cannot understand." She turned and lifted Elias's hand for all to see. The hall erupted in gasps and angry shouts, but her voice cut through them like a blade. "This human carried me from death when he owed me nothing. He gave without demand, without promise of return. And because of him, I sit before you now. I will not betray that bond. From this day, humanity is under my shield. Any who strike at them strike at me." Her words echoed through the chamber, carried across hidden recorders, broadcasted through channels both official and forbidden. Within hours, the galaxy heard her declaration. The news spread like wildfire. The Queen of Thelvana had bound her empire to Earth. On Earth, people filled the streets. Some cheered, others trembled with fear. For the first time in history, humanity was not alone, not ignored, not mocked. They had been chosen, lifted into the center of galactic attention. Yet with this honor came danger. Every ally brought enemies. Every oath carried weight. Elias watched the news from a balcony aboard the flagship, his hands resting on the rail. He had never wanted fame, never wanted the galaxy's eyes. He had wanted only a quiet life. But now billions whispered his name, calling him hero, calling him traitor, calling him savior. He felt all of it like chains. The Queen joined him, her presence silent but heavy. She looked out at the stars, then turned to him. "You do not look proud." Elias gave a bitter smile. "I never wanted any of this. I only did what felt right that day. And now, look at the storm it's brought." Her gaze softened. "Storms pass, but what they leave behind changes the world. Do you regret saving me?" He was quiet for a long time. The stars flickered like memories. Finally, he shook his head. "No, not for a second." For the first time, the Queen smiled. Truly smiled. "Then neither do I." But outside their ship, the galaxy seethed. In hidden fortresses, empires sharpened their blades. The council whispered of vengeance, of fleets to burn Earth before it could grow too strong. Assassins plotted in the shadows, fleets gathered in silence. Mercy had won one battle, but war still loomed. And yet something new had begun as well. On small worlds and among forgotten colonies, whispers of hope spread. If humanity could inspire even the Queen of Thalvana, perhaps they were not as weak as everyone believed. Perhaps there was something unbreakable in them, something worth following. The Queen later stood before her empire's vast assembly, her voice carrying across 1,000 systems. With Elias at her side, she raised her arm and declared, "From this day Earth is not prey. They are not slaves, they are not forgotten. They are our kin, our allies, our shield brothers. Let the galaxy tremble if it must, but let it also remember, mercy can bind empires and humanity is no longer alone." Her people, divided as they were, roared with both fury and awe. Some bowed, some cursed, but none could deny her will. She had spoken, and the galaxy would never be the same. As for Elias, he knew his quiet life was gone forever. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was the man who saved the Queen, the man who had changed history with a single choice of mercy. And though he feared what was coming, though he felt the weight of empires pressing down on him, he also felt something else. He felt pride, not for himself, but for what humanity had become. The Queen turned to him, her voice low, so only he could hear. "You are not alone anymore, Elias Ford. Whatever comes, you will not face it without me." He nodded, gazing at the endless stars. The war of the past had ended with mercy. The war of the future would begin with it. And together, human and Queen, they would face the storm. The galaxy watched. The bond was sealed and nothing would ever be the same again.